Well, hello everyone. I wanted to put together an opening lecture video over this chapter on attitudes because this is a very important chapter. We're no longer talking about just behavior, we're talking about uh, persuasive behavior. It's no longer the psychological elements of a consumer, but what they can do with it. And so this is a good chapter to get into and definitely one I want to talk about now. First of all, we've got to do some defining of terms. And first of all, want to mention what an attitude is. The technical definition of an attitude is what they would call a lasting evaluation of things, okay? Um, Basically, how you feel about certain things, how you feel about certain people. Uh, if you don't know NASCAR, you won't know what I'm referring to there as far as Dale Earnhardt. You know, some loved him and some hated him in the past. The next one, I'm just trying to make a point. Objects. I tried to find a better one that showed attitude, which wasn't as rude and crude. So please forgive me. I'm not trying to be over the top, but how the Calvin and Hobbes attitude about certain types of vehicles, what you like and what you don't like. Places, attitude about places. This, if you don't know by the picture, is a picture of Las Vegas. And some people love Las Vegas, and some people consider it Sin City and want to have nothing to do with it. Okay? Or even issues, such as the need to vote and things like that. Um, Attitudes can have an unbelievable amount of influence on our buying behavior. Okay. I'll say that again. Attitudes can have an unbelievable amount of influence on buying behavior. If we have an attitude for or against something, we like something or we hate it, it saves a lot of thinking. It really truly does. We just go with it. Okay. And that's the purpose of attitudes. It gets us in a preset mode when we start to act as consumers. Now, in terms of theories, one theory to explain this is what is called the functional theory of attitudes, the functional theory. And basically, the functional theory of attitudes explains how attitudes affect our social behavior. Okay? As I said just a few moments ago, attitudes basically serve a function. They exist because they serve some function for the person. All right? They turn around and a lot of times our motives are determined by our attitudes. Um, if in the future, I'm trying to think of a good example, if in the future we may be motivated towards buying a product, an attitude saves us a lot of time of having to think about all our alternatives. If your attitude is on buying a car that you want a truck and nothing else, well, then that saves you the trouble of looking through anything other than trucks. If you decide that it's got to be red, the next vehicle you own, that saves you a lot of trouble. That's your attitude, and so we use it a lot in that regard. What's interesting is about attitudes is that two people can each have the same attitude towards some item for very different reasons. For example, um, we talk about automotive cars, and I'm just picking one. I'm not picking on the others. Ford, somebody may have the attitude that they like Ford vehicles because they're dependable and they hold up well. That's just one attitude. Someone else may like Ford because basically they've been around for a very, very long time. So, they're different attitudes, but they're both positive towards the same product. And you could say the same thing about General Motors or other things of that sort. But that can happen. Two people can have the same attitude, the same like or dislike for something or a place or a person, but for different reasons. Okay. Why can an attitude or why might an attitude be formed? Okay. There are some different reasons for why an attitude may be formed. What purpose does it serve? Okay. The first is what is called a utilitarian function. When we speak of the need for an attitude and we talk about utilitarian functions, we say this: our interest in a product is based off of what we would call reward and punishment. It's all about reward and punishment. In other words, does a product offer us something pleasurable? All right. Diet Coke, the idea is that it tastes good and there's no calories. And now they're coming out with a whole different line of Diet Cokes, different flavors and stuff like that. That's all canned up. It serves a function. It has a pleasurable taste and doesn't, put on the calories. That's the thinking. There's also what is called a value expressive function. A value expressive function, here a person forms an attitude, okay, based off of what the product says about them if they use it, all right? You form an attitude based off a product because of what it says if you use it. We're not concerned about the benefit of the products, just how it makes us look. So you may turn around and have an example here that if you use a particular product, it's going to make you look more attractive, all right? So that may be the only reason that you do it, because you gain some value from it. Then there's the exact opposite, which is what's called an ego defensive function. While some attitudes is based on the idea that you use a product because it makes us more attractive or appealing, an ego defensive function says that attitudes are formed as a method of protection. Attitudes are formed as a method of protection, either from external threats or internal feelings, okay? And so what happens? We may use something such as antiperspirant, okay, or deodorant, because it protects us from embarrassing ourselves. It conceals any insecurities of how we might smell otherwise and things like that. So with the second one, value expressive, you use it to stand out, a positive response. The third one, ego defensive, you use it to hide the negatives. That's the idea, okay? And then finally, some products are all about, the attitude form is all about function, okay? We call it a knowledge function. Attitudes are formed when we require knowledge, okay, or understanding. So we rely on this a lot when we need information about a given product. We don't reverse mortgages, and the concept is we don't do it because it's pleasurable. We don't do it because it looks good or keeps us from embarrassment. A reverse mortgage is done based on a knowledge function. We need to learn more about it. We need to learn all the information necessary to find out how to help our financial situation, and so on and so forth. Okay. Companies should always try to figure out which reason the attitude is based off of and focus on it. I mean, that's sort of a summation of it all. When you're selling a product, why are they going to use the product or goods or service? Is it because it makes them feel good, utilitarian function, because it makes it look good, a value expressive function, because it keeps them from looking bad, an ego defensive function, or they just need to learn things, okay? That's how this one works. And really, for the moment, that's all I've got for you. Hope that helps.